Well, hi there, and a very warm welcome to Jump To It here on IrishRacing.com. It's an absolute bonanza of racing this weekend, isn't it? Just the 8 meetings in the GB on Saturday, 2 in Ireland as well. Hard to know where to look, while 2 gentlemen have been looking very hard in all the action. Of course, Stephen Harris and Vincent Finegan. Great to see you, gents. In a way, it's the calm before the storm. With obviously the classics and Epsom on the horizon. Nonetheless, as I said, you need kind of 6 television sets, or it's hard to know where to look at times here, especially in the UK here, Stephen.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 10, haven't we, on Saturday? I mean, I think that is a record. I don't ever remember getting to double figures in one afternoon. And rather cunningly, they all tend to merge at around about 5 o'clock, when there'll probably be sort of 9 of the meetings will be having a race within a 5-minute period, I think. Absolute madness. Cannot possibly benefit anyone. I suspect the attendances won't be as good as the tracks are hoping either, because, of course, you've got Champions League football. There's loads of sport in Ireland through the afternoon as well. So it does seem a bit brainless, doesn't it? I mean, it is one of those periods, Ed, isn't it? We've got the Epsom Oaks and the Derby next weekend, and then we're sort of suddenly into Royal Ascot. Everything does get squashed into the next month or two on the flat. But I do think that 10 meetings on a Saturday afternoon doesn't help anybody. I should think it'll have a negative effect on betting turnover in the levy, to be honest, because I think a lot of punters will just shrug their shoulders and think, well, it's just too much. Every race runs into each other, and we'll give it a miss. We'll go and sit in the garden instead.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I suppose that's on a wider issue. That's a debate perhaps we'll touch upon again on Monday. Sitting in the garden, that's something Vincent likes to do a lot. In fact, I think Vincent's been doing a lot of gardening recently when I last caught up with him. How are you? And in regards to the Irish racing, I think it's fair to say it's a bit more low-key this weekend.
It is, but it's some crazy weekend of sport for us. Particularly Saturday is unbelievable in Ireland. We've got major GAA matches on. There are provincial finals on this weekend. And on Saturday at 5 o'clock, you've got Kildare, where I live, against Dublin, where I'm from, playing a Leinster final. So most of the country will be watching that at 5 o'clock. At the same time, at 4:45, you've got the rugby. You've got Leinster against La Rochelle in the European Champions Cup final. So those who don't want to watch the GAA will be watching the rugby, and a lot of people want to watch both. You need a second TV for that. You've also, as Stephen alluded to, you've got all these race meetings on at the same time, all peaking at about 5 o'clock. And then at 8 o'clock, you've got the Champions League final, and there's a huge amount of Liverpool supporters in Ireland, so there'll be any amount of people watching that. And then there's anyone who doesn't want Liverpool to win, they'll also watch it to see if Real Madrid can turn them over. It's going to be some day of sport.
Right, so who wins the Champions League final?
Well, I suppose Liverpool do.
Right, okay. And the GAA, I want to get you off the fence with the GAA. Who are you with?
Well, the GAA, that's a foregone conclusion now. Dublin will beat Kildare. They're 10s on at the minute, so they'll surely win that. But my next door neighbour is the physio for the Kildare team, so he's very excited. He has flags all over the place for Kildare, for his car, his house, everything. His children are covered in flags and everything, so it'll be a big day for them going up to Croke Park. Yeah, unfortunately, they'll get a bad result and the tail between their legs coming home.
Understandable that in some ways then that the racing is taking the back seat. However, that's what we are here for this show. We'll crack on without further ado and have a look ahead to the weekend races. Well, we're going to kick off the action by looking at Haydock on Saturday. The 1:45. Now, Stephen, as we said, this is some trappy, tricky contests throughout the afternoon action. The Achilles Stakes is an intriguing encounter where Dragon Symbol is a horse who's divided opinion here. This is a huge drop in class for a horse who's gone very close at Group 1 level. Really lacklustre on his last couple of starts. However, you say he's in a listed assignment here. I'm finding it hard to weigh up. He's either one of the best 9-4 pokes we've seen in a long time, because you could absolutely laugh at his rivals here, or there are signs perhaps he's gone at the game. He's with Roger Varian now. How do you kind of sum up him and this race?
Well, I think it's interesting. I think he'd be a lot bigger than 9-4, Ed, to be honest with you. I was told he was very strongly fancied first time out. I backed him, actually. He was well backed. He shortened up. He was beaten over a furlong out. After the race, the people who go and look at them in the paddock thought he hadn't grown at all. Looked like he was fit, very fit. In fact, almost too fit, and he ran very badly. I couldn't have him on my mind as favourite. I
Right.
think it's probably a reasonable race for punters to play in as a result of that. The one I've gone for is Clarendon House. Now, the negatives there are Robert Cowell, very quiet, 0 from 19 in the last 14 days. But he does come alive with sprinters. He's not a prolific trainer of winners, but he does do well with his sprinters, which is a bit of a cliche. Clarendon House bumped into a very progressive handicapper at Goodwood first time out, trained by the Applebys, owned by the Dixon brothers of Rarsell, who won quite comfortably. But Clarendon House ran really well, gave him a proper race. Might have just needed that run. They then sent him over to France. Holly Doyle was booked, and I think it was sort of Holly Doyle's annual bad ride because she doesn't make any mistakes on horses. But Clarendon House was slowly away and never landed a blow, but finished with loads of running left in the tank. Basically shaped really well. So Clarendon House for me is race fit. He's 4 from 8 in his career. There should be more to come from him. He should be 100% fit. He'll love the decent ground expected at Haydock. He won't mind if there's a bit of cut in it. I think there has been a bit of weather around this week. But so Clarendon House I thought was the one to side. But then Kevin Stotty takes over. And I think he's one of the best young riders there is. So he's the first time on board Clarendon House. I think that's a big positive too.
Yeah, Clarendon House there. I actually thought the other Robert Cow individual, Atalis Bay, who used to be in Market Botti, had an each-way squeak in this. Generally, are you taking on Dragon Symbol here, Vincent, or you have no view on this one?
In it is a horse called Significantly. It's a Carl Burke horse, and Carl Burks are absolutely flying. They're winning all around them. Wind surgery it's had, and it's got cheek pieces on first time. It's a 3-time winner previously. It's only a 4-year-old. You could see improvement there if the wind surgery has worked and the cheek pieces have the desired effect.
Yeah, and the Carl Burke team are in flying form at the moment, aren't they? I think significantly. Vincent's mentioned there, 12-1 best price, so keep your eyes on that individual. Moving on, the 255 is the Pinnacle Stakes Group 3 action for the fillies and mares up at Haydock here. Really looking forward to this assignment. Some classy types on display. An intriguing betting encounter. Sela Rosa heads the market here, Stephen. Is she the correct filly or the correct favourite, shall I say, in this assignment?
I thought this was a very competitive race. Obviously, the market will be a very good guide to Sela Rosa. William Haggis winning with the stable cat at the moment. I think he's well over 30% in the last couple of weeks. Everything they back is winning. Sela Rosa is a very much an exchange horse, Ed, isn't she? She's 5-2 with the firms who are betting up blind on these races 3 or 4 days before. She hasn't been seen out for 7 months. Tom Marquand's booked fresh from a brilliant ride at Sandown last night from the front. The market will guide with her. I think it is probably a 4-1 the field race. I'm going with the race fit Noon Star. Another in-form yard, Sir Michael Stout, who's enjoying a real renaissance, got some lovely horses. She's a filly. She's got a very smart turn of foot. The key with Noon Star is she needs to settle. She's a free-going sort. She's running 2 small field races this season already. She overcame the fact that she pulled at Nottingham. She quick and clean away 3 furlongs out. Only ended up falling in the finish in a muddling race, but she was a lot better than those rivals. They then upped her in class to the Middleton at York, and she just pulled too hard. And York, there's no cover at all there. It's a huge open space, and they fanned out, and she just didn't land a blow and faded out of things. So I think Haydock, 10 runners, they should go a decent gallop. Hopefully she'll settle for the first time this season, and she has got a very smart turn of foot. She's around about 5-1. I think that's a very fair price.
Yeah, I'm with you on New Star actually there. Just to add, she got really sweaty, got quite irritated in the prelims at York as well. As you say, just kind of blown a race by the time it really got going in earnest. It was far too free throughout the early stages. Vincent, for you, there's quite a bit of Irish interest in here. I mean, James Doyle's been a jockey riding out of his skin this season. He's on board one for Jessica Harrington here.
Yeah, an interesting booking. I'm not quite sure why James Doyle was picked, but he's obviously a top-class rider, so it'll be interesting to see how that runs. Jessica Harrington, she's focusing more on the flat now than National Hunt. She's doing a bit of a Joseph O'Brien on it. That's where her focus is at the minute. She's having a poor run of it. She's had 1 win from her last 27 runners. Not the strike rate you'd be looking for. She's had a few horses have gone to the UK this season as well and haven't won. This one, Climate has last 2 runs have been in Newmarket, ran there last October. The thing with this filly is it took her 6 goes to win a maiden. She eventually won one in Navan. She's got some good form since then. Not winning form, but placed form and that. And her comeback run in Newmarket was a pretty good run. She was staying on fourth over a shorter trip. I think that's a good run. That was in a Group 2 as well. In that, out of that race, Lilac Road was a half a length behind her that day, and Lilac Road came out and won the race in York. That Noon Star finished 6 lengths behind, second last in that field. So, like on strict line of form with Lilac Road, you'd have to think Climate beats Noon Star. But as you said, there were reasons why Noon Star maybe didn't perform to the best of her ability in the York race. But Climate definitely has a chance here, despite the poor form of Jessica Harrington's at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. An intriguing runner there with James Doyle on board. I just wanted to mention here, Stephen, Delectable You, who's one of the an absolute talk horses in her early days. Lord Lloyd Webber's horse. It fascinated here, really. I mean, if you look at her rating, I mean, she's bred to be an absolute superstar. She's only rated 84. She's got absolutely stacks to find on ratings, but there's clearly something about her they just think really is top notch. I mean, she kind of scrambled home, didn't she? She's 9-4 favourite at Windsor last time out. Is it a case of height versus substance is still overruling with Delectable You?
I think she needs to improve dramatically, to be honest, Ed. She had the run of the race at Windsor. She was under pressure 4 furlongs out, and she did manage to fend off Mercy and him, but they all finished in a heap. It looked a moderate race that she had the run of. I would imagine she'd have been fit for it. She was sent off a fairly well back 9-4 favourite. This looks a much better race. I mean, she's the sort of Saturday horse that there'll be a market for her because Dettori's on her and she won last time out. But I think she's probably at least a sort of 14-1 chance. She'd need to improve, and the others would need to run well below par, I'd have thought.
That's what I was kind of getting at. For an 8-1 shot, she's got £20 to find on ratings. I just thought it was interesting that they decided to go this route with her. It looks it's a huge step up in class, isn't it? Moving on to the 3:30, which is the John Gaunt Stakes. Group 3 action over the 7 furlongs here. 8 runners going to post. Kinross, last year's winner, is back for more. It's your 3-1 market leader, along with Sunray Major, who's been the subject of quite a bit of money in the last 24 hours. They're generally 3-1 joint favourites here. Dettori was on board Kinross last year, is on Sunray Major this time, obviously for the Gosden team. Tricky in regards to the betting here, Stephen. How do you sum this one up?
Yeah, this is a hard race. I've selected Lane Cash. I'm slightly worried. The early vibes aren't wonderful. He's been off for 8 months. Maybe he'll need the run, but he was lightly raced last season. He only ran in Group 2 company, and he ran 3 absolute screamers. Now, the thing I liked was that Roger Veron, we touched on earlier with Dragon Symbol, his horses had a really quiet month in April, but in the last couple of weeks, they've really come back to life. He's had 6 winners from 38 runners, which is still probably slightly below the strike rate he'd like, but there are more encouraging signs. He's had a couple of unfancied horses win first time out. And Lane Cash, I think, obviously can't be the easiest to train, so have only turned up 3 times last season, but all of those runs were in really solid races. And this Group 3 is a little bit easier. I mean, I would. It's a dangerous business, isn't it? We're tipping up horses a couple of days before. They haven't run for 8 months. If the vibes are definitely need the run, had loads of problems, then you could be tipping up a complete dead one.
Yeah.
But on form, assuming he's fit for this valuable prize, which, I mean, Roger Veron's a brilliant trainer. The chances are he'll be primed and A1. And I think if he turns up at his best, he'll go very close to it. He'll like the decent ground. He's got everything in his favour. And it has got quite an attractive shape to it with the dead 8 runners at the moment, Ed. Although, as we know, those bookmakers will be ringing round trying to get one pulled, won't they? Get it down to 7 and 2 places. But I was quite keen on Lane Cash when I looked at the race.
Yeah, Stephen, always the cynic. Always the cynic, I think it's fair to say. But yeah, any input on this one, Vincent?
Not really. I find it interesting that Sunray Major is such a short price. Can't understand what's going on there. The horse runs last October in Ascot, off a rating of 95 in a handicap. Short price favourite, finishes 14th of 20. And since then has run twice this season, 5th of 6th and then 6th of 9 to Bayid. But the rating has gone from 95 up to 108 now. So it looks like a contender on figures. It's only got a few pounds to find with some of these on figures, but I'm struggling to find where the handicapper has come up with that rating of 108. I don't think the horse is running anywhere near that. The Bayid obviously pushes it up because Bayid is obviously the best horse we've got in training at the minute, but I'm still struggling to see a horse that finishes 6th of 9 there coming out to win here and being punted to win. But the Dettori factor is obviously the key, having said that he switches off the horse he won the race on last year to this. So it must be a contender, but for me, I can't see it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, bit of a conundrum for punters, that is for sure. Now to move on to really straightforward assignments, we'll skip across to Beverly for the 205, the Hillary Needler, the fillies condition stakes over the 5 furlongs. This is your type of race, this Stephen, isn't it? 9 going to post here, unexposed 2-year-olds, absolute
Mm.
speed. We may get something come out of this and go on to bigger and better things. You never know. Absolutely flawless. Something which I'm sure you're referred to often, Stephen, is 2 from 2. William Buick riding for David Loughnane, who's been in amongst the winners with the 2-year-olds recently. Not often, or not all that often, would you see Will Buick at Beverly? I think it's fair to say. Absolutely flawless. Is your jolly? Is she the one to beat?
Well, actually, just touching on William Buick, Ed, you're right about that. William Buick has been at Hamilton and he's been all over the country in the last week, and he's been riding winners all over the place. I suspect he's having a proper go at being champion jockey this season. He's going to tracks I don't think I've ever seen him riding at, and it's very significant that he's come here for this race. This is a complete no-bet race, a blinding race to watch. You'll see plenty for the future. You're bound to spot an unlucky loser or 3. Beverly is one of those tracks where luck in running is a big factor. Usually on decent ground, you want to get over onto that far rail and be very handy. They don't often come from miles off the pace here. I thought the interesting one was Par Fire of Nigel Tinkler. Now, Nigel Tinkler is a trainer, I think it's fair to say, would not be known for first-time out winners. I bet he hasn't had 5 first-time out juveniles win in the last 10 years. But Par Fire was really impressive at Doncaster. I watched the run this morning again because I knew I was going to be talking about her, and she fell out the stall. She was absolutely clueless, and then suddenly 2 furlongs out, she was absolutely bolting all over them, and she won very impressively. Now, the runner-up has come out and finished 3rd at Carlisle in the week, only beaten sort of in 2 photographs in 3rd. So, the form could be okay. I mean, this is a big jump up in class for Parfa. The only thing I'm a bit devastated about, I've just seen a price 4 to 1. Well, I thought I was tipping something at double figures here. Nigel Tinkler taking on listed class fillies with a 20 to 1 poke who'd won first time out. But she has not been missed. Obviously, I suspect she's been tipped up somewhere and her price has shortened up dramatically. But no, it's a watching race rather than a betting race, but a good race to watch.
The 315 is the 2-year-old trophy at Beverly. Is this going to be a watch and brief for you? I mentioned Will Buick. He's on Chateau here. A little stat for you. I don't know if you've picked it up. One I saw floating around social media. Charlie Appleby does not have a single horse running on Saturday. So that's got to be some kind of stat for the Guinness Book of Records with 83 race meetings going on here, there and everywhere. So it's freed up James Doyle and Will Buick to go and do what you like, lads, on the Saturday, which includes coming to Beverly as far as Will Buick is concerned. He rides Chateau on here, but Whistle and Flute is your market leader here. Charles Bishop, Eve Johnson Horton. Again, Stephen, one for you or one to sit on the fence with?
Now, I do like Whistle and Flute. I think sets a really solid standard. Very impressive first time out at Bath, quickening up smartly despite looking pretty inexperienced. And then well backed at Ascot next time. I thought bumped into one, the horse of Andrew Balding's called Backheel, who raced up the middle of the track and might have been at a bit of an advantage tactically there. Whistle and Flute was covered up initially and never really quite landed a blow. But I would think that is the solid, clear form choice. And Eve Johnson, a yard who does really well without any patronage from any big owners. So when she has a smart one, I think they tend to keep on improving, and Whistle and Flute can maybe put that experience to good use. But again, with these juvenile races, you're always liable to bump into an unexposed one, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. The great imponderable racing, it's fair to say. Vince has been sitting there very patiently. It's over to you now. You very eloquently summed up pretty much the action in Ireland at the top of the show. But as far as the racing goes, not only just this weekend, Vincent, but some of the stuff we've seen during the week, included a couple of gambles from the Emmett Mullins yard. Can you kind of just bring us up to speed with everything, please?
Yeah, there was a really interesting race yesterday in Limerick, a claiming hurdle, which you don't normally think is going to be an interesting race. Normally it's a cup of tea race for the punters. Nobody really bets in them generally. A few people looking to maybe buy one out of the claimers, but that's about it. But there was a horse yesterday called Big Jim Dwyer, trained by Emmett Mullins. Very interesting horse. It had originally been placed in 2 bumpers a couple of years ago for Joseph O'Brien. And then it went to England to Keith Dalgleish. 10 runs for Keith Dalgleish, no wins, and was sold this time last year for 9,000 sterling. Doesn't run for a year, turns up in this claiming hurdle where they put it in at the bargain basement price of €4,000. and it was punted off the boards all day. 6-1 in places early, all the way into 8-11. I happened to watch the race on the Betfair Exchange, and the amount of money traded on that horse, not just before the off, but even shortly after the off, there were people looking to thousands on, even though the horse was sitting in 5th or 6th in running. They were taking any price at that stage. And sure enough, the horse wins. First time hood was the interesting part to it, I suppose. But unfortunately, the horse finished lame. It got a very bad cut, and I'm hearing that the horse didn't make it through the night. So unfortunately, that's the end of that for Big Jim Dwyer, but it was a fair punt. What was also interesting here is this horse had been in the UK, comes back to join Emmett Mullins, and with the first time hood lands a big touch. And only a few weeks ago in Kempton, we had a horse that had been with Emmett Mullins, went over to David Evans in the UK after 9 duck egg runs in Ireland, landed a huge touch there in first time cheek pieces, and that has gone on to win again since this week at Bath on Tuesday. That won again, that horse Charlie's Yard, it's called. So that'll probably win again and again, presuming it doesn't get a leg like poor Big Jim Dwyer. There was some other interesting racing during the week. There was a very good bumper winner in Wexford of, well, looked a very good horse. A horse called No Risk, No Fun of Patrick and Willie Mullins that danced in that day. What's interesting about that is there was a horse due to run against that in the Wexford race, a reserve that didn't get in, called Deman Driving Dooman. Ridiculous name. But anyway, it's trained by Gordon Elliott, point-to-point winner. He's got big American owners for this. That was supposed to be well fancied for that Wexford bumper, but didn't get in. It runs on Saturday in what looks a very good bumper on Saturday for the time of year in Punchestown. You've got a horse of Emmett Mullins again, a horse called Halibut that finished 3rd at the Punchestown Festival. So that obviously is a reasonable standard of form. And then you've got another one in it called Speed Boss Ted, trained by his uncle Willie Mullins. And this horse ran once and fell in a Tipperary point-to-point. What's interesting about that point-to-point, the horse fell at the last, was going to finish probably 4th, but Constitution Hill finished 2nd in that race. So maybe there's a decent line of form somewhere in all of this. But it should be, of the races we have this weekend, low-grade stuff. But that'll be the best of it, I'd say. The bumper on Saturday at Punchestown is one to definitely look out for.
Yeah, indeed. Lots of good pointers there. That No Risk, No Fun went into my notebook after just watching a Wexford bumper. Kind of, I don't know what I was expecting really, but then this thing absolutely motionless, going 9 lengths clear. Definitely one for the notebooks, perhaps with a winter hurdling campaign in mind, given the way they were talking about that horse afterwards. Incidentally, was Di Walters' first winner with Willie Mullins, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So that was definitely an interesting angle. We'll shuffle on very quickly to Sunday. Now, as you do, we've got 4 jumps meetings a week before June. We've got Shartin, but also in Baden-Baden, a significant runner over there, because last year's Arc de Triomphe winner, Torquato Tasso, returns to the racetrack. Of course, caused a mighty upset when winning at 80-1, although if you logged onto Twitter, you'd think everyone had backed it, and I couldn't understand why it didn't go off 4-6. But anyway, it won at 80-1 nonetheless. Stephen, do you think that was a bit of a fluke result? I mean, he's 14-1 to do the repeat this year. Are we being a bit snobby with him? It sounds like Connections are really serious of campaigning him, in some all the good contests. They're not going to be afraid to travel, shall we say. And this is being used potentially as a tilt at the King George Ascot in 6 or 7 weeks' time. Hard horse to try and weigh up, in my view, Torquato Tasso.
Yeah, I mean, it does look flash in the panny, Ed, doesn't it? Everything panned out ideally there. The leaders went for home far too soon and stopped, and he got dragged in from miles off the pace. I'd be very surprised if he turned out to be a genuine sort of top-class horse who it paid to follow this summer on much faster ground as well. It's going to be for most
that could be
of the
the
time.
key.
So
yeah,
I think that is probably the key. I'd be slightly surprised. He's going to be one of those horses. There'll be plenty of people looking to lay him, won't they? I suspect he'll be sort of filed in the flash in the pan folder and one to be against. I'd also imagine he might have had lots of problems. There must have been other races he could have run in, you would have imagined, unless they've got a carefully mapped out plan, maybe Royal Ascot, I don't know. But personally, I'd be looking to be against him, I would imagine.
Well, I was just going to say, he had Hurricane Lane and Adair behind him at Longchamp. How would you go? Well, Vincent, I'll bring you in here. I mean, you say, would you be taking Stephen's viewpoint of perhaps that was a bit of a fluke? I mean, is he the outsider of the 3 if those 3 meet at Ascot in 6 weeks' time?
Oh,
from a betting point of view, he definitely is.
Yeah.
But is it the outside of the 3 in ability? Not sure he is. This could be a very good horse. It's hard to know.
Right.
It's very hard to equate the German form. That's the problem, isn't it? So we'll have to just wait and see what happens in Baden-Baden the weekend. how things are shaping up, because you'll get a fair idea, I'd say, by the time we get to Ascot, how good this horse is. There'll be rumours and everything about what the type of work he's doing. I don't think he's going to be an 80-1 chance whenever he runs again. That's the bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. A bit of cut in the ground as well. It does look to be a serious horse when conditions suit. Right, that pretty much wraps up the weekend preview. It's now time to get the gentleman's tips for the week. Right, getting our best bets for the weekend's action now. Stephen, you can kick us off. Where are we going here then?
Both at Haydock, both races we've touched on. 2:55 at Haydock, noon start. I think the key with her is settling. She's got an explosive turn of foot if she ever settles. She's run twice this season at Nottingham and at York, and she hasn't settled on either occasion. She did manage to win at Nottingham narrowly, but I think in a better race with a better pace, a bigger field, if she settles for the first time, I think she'll murder these for speed late. She's race fit, stouts flying, decent ground suits. And in the 3:30, at the prices, I have gone for Lane Cash of Roger Varian, hoping Varian's now in good form. Lane Cash will be fully fit. 3 really good runs last season, a bit unlucky more than once in Group 2s, now down to a Group 3. I think they're largely much of a muchness, and Lane Cash should have a bit more improvement in the tank this season.
Excellent stuff. Look out for both those tips. Vincent, to bring you in here then, where are we going?
Yeah, 2 minimum stake bets, to be honest with you, this weekend. They're both on Saturday. One of them runs in the 5:10 at Navan on Saturday. It's a horse called Clifftop. It's trained by Harry Rogers. This is a 1.25 mile handicap. There's a huge field in this. It's got a poor draw in 20. But having said that, it's a hold-up horse, likes to be out the back, so the draw probably isn't a negative. What's interesting is Harry Rogers had a very quiet time, but he had a bit of tragedy in his family. His poor wife passed away earlier in the year. But he started to have winners in the last couple of weeks. He's had a couple of nice winners, other horses running well. And Clifftop has run here before. It's fit from hurdling. It has run here before last year. Last July, got beaten and nose in a similar handicap over the same course and distance. So I'd be expecting to see that run a nice race. Hopefully it will win for Harry. And the other one is in punches of a maiden hurdle. And in the second division at 4:18, there's a horse called Ballybock Native, trained by Henry de Bromhead, ridden by Rachel Blackmore. This was an impressive point-to-point winner, came with a decent reputation and ran in a much better maiden hurdle in Fairyhouse a few weeks ago. Started joint favourite for that. I think it was 3-1. It might have been joint favourite. But ran poorly. That was over 2.5. They're dropping it back to 2, which doesn't seem to be a particular positive, but at the same time, this is a very weak race. If this horse is any good at all, it should show its true colours and beat these.
Okay, great stuff. Then I'm with Stephen on Noon Star. I'm hoping that filly shows the proper turn of foot. And I'm over to Chester. Broad Spear, drawn in stool 1, plum draw, up in trip. I think a win is not far away. Right, before we go then, gentlemen, Stephen, I mentioned I was trying to get you riled, basically. But race planning. We've got 10 meetings on Saturday. We've got 4 jumps meetings on Sunday. I thought you must be either wheeling the barbecue out or making it down the Fontwell. I'm going evens each of 2.
Well, yeah, but you could get the double up. That could be a related contingency, though. I think Saturday, honestly, on a serious note, for punters, you've got to plan what you're going to do. Do it early in the morning, preferably if you can get best odds guaranteed. Pick out the horses you want to back at the price you want to back, and then watch it the next day, because you're just going to get suckered in. There's a race off every 2 seconds. There's nothing worse than getting hotted up. You know, your first one falls at the last when 25 lengths clear, and then there's 300 other races in the next hour. You've got to be incredibly disciplined. So it's important to have a plan. I will say that. Yeah, my plan would be barbecue, watch the replays on Sunday morning, then off to Fontwell. The only thing about Fontwell is, as you say, there's 3 UK jumps meetings at the end of May, no flat, and they've got no runners at any of them. I mean, honestly, we'll have to spend an hour on Monday talking about this, but it is absolute madness, total madness.
Yeah, good. I've just riled you up just as the show's come to the close. I want you to keep bottle that up for Monday, please, Stephen. Vincent, yourself, it's just a bonanza. What are you actually going to be watching? Are you watching racing? Are you watching GAA? Are you watching rugby? Are you watching Champions League? Or are you going to try and manage all 4?
I'm going to try and manage all 4. I won't watch much racing. I'll watch a small bit of the Irish stuff. The couple of horses I tipped up, I'll have a look at those. The problem is they're running at 4:18 and 5:10. We've got the rugby at 4:45. We've got the GAA at 5 o'clock, and then we've got the Champions League at 8. So I'm hoping I'll get to the pub at some stage to see some of that, because it should be good fun in the pub with all the different supporters of all the different teams. But I might wait for the Champions League to go up for that one, so they'll all be well softened up by the time I get there.
Absolutely. Yeah, you better be. You'll be playing catch up. I think it's fair to say, Vincent. No, but it's been great fun. My thanks, of course, to Stephen and to Vincent as always. Of course, don't forget, check out all the latest news and features on irishracing.com, and check out all of Stephen's tips on Betting Expert. If you do like to have a bet, please do gamble responsibly. Join us again next week. We'll be talking all things Epsom, with, of course, the Oaks and the Derby arriving. Thanks for watching, and see you again soon.